The wind howled through the narrow streets like a hungry wolf. Broken signs swung on rusty chains, creaking in the cold night air. A woman walked slowly, holding the hand of a little boy whose coat was too thin for the freezing weather. Her name was Lena. Life had not been kind to her. She had once dreamed of a happy home, a good job, a husband who stayed. But now all she had was a son with tired eyes and a purse with too few coins. The boy, Sam, tried to keep up with her steps. He was small for his age, with messy hair and a face that looked too serious for a 6-year-old. Other kids at school carried lunch boxes. Sam carried silence. He knew when his mother had no money. He knew when asking for candy would only make her eyes fill with tears. Up ahead, the lights of a small grocery store glowed in the dark like a lighthouse for lost ships. The smell of baked bread floated out each time someone opened the door. Lena squeezed Sam's hand. "We'll get something warm to eat," she said softly. Her voice carried hope, even if her eyes did not. Inside the store, it was bright and warm. A radio played soft music near the counter. Shelves were stacked high with food, bread, milk, fruits, snacks in shiny packets. Sam's eyes darted from shelf to shelf. He stopped near the cookies. He stared at them, then looked away quickly as if he had done something wrong. Lena picked up a loaf of bread. She checked the price tag. Her lips moved as she counted coins inside her mind. Bread was necessary. Milk was necessary. She picked them both. She looked at the apples. Her son had not eaten any fruit in days. She reached for 3 small ones. Then she took a packet of cheap noodles. At the counter stood Ray, the night cashier. He wore a simple jacket and had hair that looked like it needed sleep. He scanned the food quietly. "That'll be $12, he said in a tired but polite voice. Lena froze. $12. Her heart sank like a stone in deep water. She opened her purse and counted again. $8.50. That was all. She felt eyes on her, the man behind her in line, the woman checking her phone near the door. The world was watching her fail. I don't have enough," she whispered, her voice breaking. Sam looked up at her, confused. He didn't understand money, but he understood his mother's shaking hands. Lena picked up the bread and milk slowly. "I'll take only these," she said, pushing the apples and noodles aside with trembling fingers. But Ray didn't move. He looked at the boy first, then at Lena. Something in his eyes changed. The man behind her sighed loudly. "Can you hurry up? Some of us got places to be." Lena's face burned red. She wanted to disappear. Then Ray said something no one expected. "Keep it all," he said calmly. Lena froze. "What?" "I said keep it all. The bread, the milk, the apples, the noodles, everything." He reached into his pocket, pulled out his own card, and swiped it before she could speak. The impatient man behind her groaned. "Oh, come on." But Ray ignored him. The machine beeped. Payment accepted. Lena stared at him. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." Ray looked at the boy again. Sam was hugging the bag of food like it was treasure. "Because," Ray said slowly, "sometimes strangers care more than the people who should." Lena didn't know what to say. Pride told her to refuse. Hunger told her to accept. Gratitude made her throat tight. "Thank you," she whispered finally. Ray just nodded. "Take care of the kid." Lena left the store quickly before anyone could see the tears in her eyes. Outside, the wind was still cold, but it felt less cruel now. Sam walked beside her, holding the bag carefully. After a long silence, he said, "Mom, is he a hero?" Lena smiled weakly. "Maybe he is." But inside, her mind was full of questions. Who was that man? Why would he help a stranger? And deep down, she felt this was only the beginning of something much bigger. Back inside the store, Ray kept working as if nothing had happened. But his eyes were far away. He didn't know it yet, but that one small act would change many lives, including his own. The night grew darker after Lena and her little boy disappeared into the cold streets. Inside the store, Ray wiped the counter slowly. His face looked calm, but his heart was not. People thought working as a cashier was simple, scan items, take money, smile at customers. But they didn't know about the long hours, the rude customers, the late paychecks. And they didn't know about nights like this. Nights when a woman with tired eyes and a hungry child stood in front of him, holding back tears because life had left them with nothing. Ray locked the store at midnight. The streets were empty, wet from a light rain. He walked home alone, his hands in his pockets, his head full of thoughts. He lived in a small apartment, one room with a bed, a table, and a tiny kitchen. No pictures on the walls. No family waiting. He cooked noodles, the cheapest kind, and ate in silence. But his mind was still at the store with the woman and the boy. Why did he help them? He didn't know exactly. Maybe because once, long ago, someone had helped his family the same way. Flashback to Ray's childhood. Years ago, Ray had been a small boy just like Sam. He remembered the cold winter night when his mother had no money for food. She had tried to return a bag of rice at a store because she couldn't pay for it. A stranger had stepped forward then, an old man with kind eyes. He had paid for the food without saying a word. Ray never saw that man again, but he never forgot. That night, he promised himself, if I ever see someone struggling the way we did, I will help them, no matter what. And tonight, he had kept that promise. The unexpected meeting. The next evening, Ray was back at work. He thought maybe he would never see the woman and her boy again. But around 9 p.m., the store door opened, and there they were. Lena looked nervous, holding a small paper bag. She walked to the counter slowly. I brought this for you, she said. Ray frowned. What is it? Bread, she said softly. You helped us yesterday. I don't have much, but I wanted to thank you. Ray looked at the bag but didn't take it. You don't have to do that. I want to, Lena said firmly. Sam stood beside her, holding the same bag of apples from yesterday. His cheeks were less pale now. He looked at Ray shyly and whispered, Thank you for the food. Ray smiled a little. You're welcome, kid. But before Lena could say more, another worker at the store walked over. His name was Carl, older, with a face that looked like it had been carved from anger. You paid for her food, didn't you? Carl said in a low voice to Ray. Ray didn't answer. Carl shook his head. Big mistake. People like her. They come once, then they come again and again. You'll pay for them forever. Lena heard him. Her face turned red. I didn't ask for anything, she said sharply. Carl smirked. Maybe not today, but you will. Ray's jaw tightened. That's enough, Carl, he said coldly. Carl walked away, laughing under his breath. Lena picked up the bread she had brought for Ray. I should go, she said quietly. Ray stopped her. Wait. She looked at him. You don't owe me anything, Ray said softly. What I did. It was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. He knew it. She knew it. The storm inside. That night after work, Ray couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Carl's words. Was he right? Had Ray made a mistake? He didn't think so. But he knew the world wasn't kind to people like Lena. It wasn't kind to kids like Sam. Ray leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He had 2 jobs, this store and a weekend delivery job. He barely made enough for rent and food. Yet when he saw Sam's eyes yesterday, full of hunger and sadness, something inside him refused to stay silent. Maybe he had risked too much. Maybe Carl was right. But maybe one small act of kindness could still matter in this world. The silent witness. What Ray didn't know was that someone in the store yesterday had recorded the moment he paid for Lena's food. The video was now online. People were starting to share it. A tired young cashier helping a mother and child who had nothing. That image was spreading fast. But Ray didn't know yet. He was just a man who had kept a promise to his younger self, not realizing the whole world was about to find out who he was. The next morning, the city woke up as usual. Cars honking, people rushing to work, life moving forward like nothing had changed. But for Ray, something had changed. He was sitting by the small window in his apartment, drinking cheap coffee, staring at the street below. His phone buzzed a few times, but he ignored it. He didn't know that the video of him paying for Lena's groceries was already spreading online. For him, it wasn't about videos or strangers watching. It was about the memory he couldn't escape, the memory of his own childhood. Ray's secret past. Years ago, Ray had been just like Sam, the little boy with Lena. Small, hungry, afraid to ask for anything because his mother already carried too much pain. Ray remembered a winter night when his mother had tried to buy food, but didn't have enough money. He remembered her shaking hands, the shame on her face when the cashier asked her to return things. And then a stranger, an old man in a brown coat, had stepped forward and paid for everything. No words, no lecture, just kindness. That stranger disappeared into the night after that, but his single act stayed in Ray's heart like fire. Someday, Ray had whispered to himself as a child, I will do the same for someone. And last night, when he saw Lena and her boy, it felt like life had given him the chance. Lena's struggles. On the other side of the city, Lena sat at the edge of her bed. Sam was asleep beside her, hugging the blanket tightly. Her small apartment smelled of damp walls and cheap detergent. The heater hadn't worked in weeks. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about the man at the store, the cashier who didn't even know her name but paid for her food. She wanted to feel only gratitude, but guilt crawled inside her chest. Because tomorrow, she had to choose between paying rent or buying medicine for Sam's cough, and there was no money for both. The second meeting. That evening, Lena went back to the store, not to ask for help. She hated asking for help, but she wanted to return the bread she had brought for Ray yesterday because she couldn't afford to give anything away. Ray saw her enter. She looked thinner than before, her hair tied back quickly, her coat still too old for this weather. She placed the bread on the counter quietly. I need to take this back, she said softly, not meeting his eyes. Ray frowned. Why? She sighed. Because my son needs the money more than you need the bread. Ray pushed the bread back toward her. Keep it. For your son. But she shook her head. I can't keep taking from people. I have to fix my own life. Ray wanted to argue, but before he could, Sam started coughing, loud, rough coughs that made the boy bend over, holding his chest. Lena panicked and held him close. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Ray felt something sharp twist inside his chest. This wasn't just hunger anymore. The boy was sick. The risk. After they left, Ray couldn't focus at work. He kept hearing that cough in his head. He knew a doctor, his old friend, Dr. Aaron, who sometimes helped poor families for free. Ray picked up his phone during his break and called him. There's a kid, Ray said quietly. He's sick. His mom can't afford a hospital. Can you help? Aaron sighed on the other side. You bring him tomorrow. I'll see what I can do. Ray thanked him, but a new problem waited for him inside the store. The store owner's warning. The store owner, Mr. Grant, was a big man with a voice like thunder. He called Ray into the office. I heard you paid for a customer's groceries, he said sharply. Ray nodded slowly. This isn't a charity, Mr. Grant snapped. Do it again and you're out. We don't pay you to save the world. Ray stayed silent. Do you understand? The owner demanded. Ray nodded again, but inside, his heart was burning. He didn't care about rules when a child was coughing his lungs out at night. The growing storm. Meanwhile, the video of Ray paying for Lena's food was climbing fast online. People were sharing it with titles like, Kind Cashier Helps Single Mother, and One Act of Kindness Restores Faith in Humanity. But Ray didn't know. He didn't know the world was watching. And he didn't know that soon, this small story in a corner store would explode into something far bigger than he had ever imagined. The next day began with heavy clouds hanging over the city like a warning. At the small grocery store, Ray started his shift early. He kept glancing at the door, half expecting Lena and little Sam to appear. But they didn't. He wondered if the boy's cough had gotten worse. Ray's mind wasn't at work. He scanned items, gave change, greeted customers, but his thoughts were somewhere else. Last night's warning from the store owner, Mr. Grant, echoed in his ears. Do it again and you're out. We don't pay you to save the world. Ray needed this job. Rent was late. Bills were waiting. But his heart told him something else. Sometimes rules had to be broken. The return of Lena. Late in the evening, the door opened, and Lena stepped in. Her coat was wet from rain, her hair sticking to her face. Sam held her hand, coughing softly. Ray's chest tightened at the sound. Lena came to the counter quietly. "Do you know any free clinics?" she asked, her voice low like she was embarrassed to even ask. Ray nodded. "I called a doctor, my friend. He'll see Sam tomorrow." Lena's eyes widened. "You called someone?" "Yes," Ray said simply. "No charge. He's good." Lena looked like she wanted to speak but couldn't. Her pride and her gratitude fought inside her eyes. Finally, she whispered, "Thank you." Ray smiled faintly. "Bring him at 10 in the morning. The trouble begins." But someone had been watching. Carl, the older cashier who hated Ray's kindness, smirked from the corner. As soon as Lena left, he walked to Mr. Grant's office. "Boss," Carl said with fake concern. "That young guy, Ray, he's turning this place into a free charity. First he pays for people's food. Now he's using company time to help strangers." Mr. Grant's face darkened. "Fire him," Carl suggested eagerly. "Not yet," Mr. Grant growled. "But one more mistake, and he's gone." The storm outside. That night, rain poured like the sky was angry. Streets were empty. Ray walked home with an umbrella that barely worked. His shoes were soaked, but he didn't care. He was thinking about the boy's cough, about Lena's tired eyes. At home, he made a call to his friend, Dr. Aaron. "Tomorrow morning," Ray said, "please check the kid properly. He's been coughing for days." Aaron sighed. "I'll do what I can. But if he needs medicine, someone has to pay for it." "I'll pay," Ray said without thinking. Aaron paused. "Can you afford it?" Ray didn't answer. The viral video. While Ray planned quietly, the video of him paying for Lena's groceries had exploded online. People were sharing it everywhere. "Young cashier helps single mother. Restores faith in humanity." Comments poured in. "This guy is a real hero. Someone find him. I want to help." But Ray had no idea. He didn't use social media much. For him, the real problem was the boy's health, not strangers on the internet. The next morning, at 10 sharp, Lena came with Sam to Dr. Aaron's small clinic. Aaron checked the boy carefully. "It's a chest infection," he said finally. "Not too serious yet, but he needs antibiotics." Lena's face fell. Medicine meant money she didn't have. Aaron looked at Ray. Ray nodded. "I'll cover it." Lena shook her head. "No, you've done enough." Ray looked at her calmly. "He's a kid. Kids should be healthy. Let me help." Lena bit her lip but didn't argue this time. The breaking point. That evening, Ray returned to work. Mr. Grant was waiting. "I heard you left during your shift to help that woman," he said coldly. Ray stayed silent. "Do you think this is a hospital?" Mr. Grant snapped. "Do you think customers come here for charity?" Ray's hands tightened into fists. He wanted to shout that it was just one child, one sick boy, but he knew it wouldn't matter. "Next time," Mr. Grant warned. "You're done here." Ray nodded slowly, but inside something had changed. He was no longer afraid of losing this job. The calm before the storm. As the sun set, Lena and Sam ate warm soup in their tiny apartment. The medicine was on the table, a gift from a man who owed them nothing. Sam smiled for the first time in days. Lena whispered to herself, "Why is he helping us?" Outside, the rain stopped. But far away, the world was still watching the viral video, and things were about to change for everyone. Ray didn't know it yet, but life was about to throw him into a storm bigger than anything he had faced before. The next morning, the sky was bright, but it didn't match the storm building inside Ray's life. The medicine had helped little Sam sleep better through the night. For the first time in weeks, Lena saw her son smile while eating breakfast. That small smile gave her strength she hadn't felt in months. But far away, in the small grocery store, things were about to change for the worse. The store owner's decision. Mr. Grant, the store owner, sat in his office with Carl standing beside him like a shadow. The viral video had reached him now. It's everywhere, Carl said, holding his phone. Everyone's talking about our store like it's some charity place. Mr. Grant's jaw tightened. Customers come here for business, not for pity stories. Carl smirked. Fire him, before he turns this place into a free food bank. Mr. Grant didn't answer right away. He stared at the screen showing Ray's face as he paid for Lena's groceries. Thousands of comments praised him as a hero. But Mr. Grant didn't like heroes. Heroes didn't make money. Call him in, he ordered finally. Ray gets the news. Ray came into the office after finishing with a customer. Sit, Mr. Grant said sharply. Ray stayed standing. The owner's voice was cold. You left during work hours yesterday. You brought personal drama into my store. You broke company rules more than once. Ray said nothing. Pack your things, Mr. Grant continued. You're done here. For a second, the words didn't sink in. Then they hit hard. Ray had worked here for 3 years. Long nights, double shifts, holidays alone. And now, because he helped one sick child, he was jobless. Carl stood in the corner, pretending to look sad but hiding a smile. Ray picked up his jacket slowly. Fine, he said quietly. I hope you never need help the way they did. Then he walked out. Lena learns the truth. That afternoon, Lena came to the store to thank Ray again for arranging the medicine. But he wasn't there. Where's the young man? She asked Carl. Carl grinned. Fired. Boss doesn't like charity workers. Lena froze. Fired? Because of me? Carl shrugged like it was nothing. Rules are rules. Lena left the store feeling like someone had punched her in the chest. She wanted to run after Ray, to explain, to say sorry. But she didn't even know where he lived. The video explodes. While Lena searched for him, the video of Ray helping her had reached millions. News channels picked it up. Kind cashier pays for single mother's food. Fired for his kindness? Hero or rule breaker? Internet divided. People began demanding the store rehire him. Some even wanted to start a fundraiser. But Ray didn't know any of this yet. He had no TV, no fancy phone, no time for social media. He was out walking in the cold streets, wondering what to do next. The turning point. That evening, Lena finally found him near the bus stop. He was sitting on a bench, hands in his pockets, staring at the ground. You lost your job, she said softly. Ray looked up but didn't speak. Because of us? She added, her voice breaking. Ray shook his head. Not because of you. Because I broke their rules. They don't like it when you help people. Lena sat beside him, silent for a moment. Then she said, I'll pay you back. Every dollar. Ray almost laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Feed your son first, he said. That's more important. Hope in the darkness. Just then, a stranger approached them. Are you Ray? The man asked, holding a phone. Ray frowned. Yes, why? The man smiled. You're all over the internet. That video of you helping the woman and her son. It's everywhere. People are calling you a hero. Ray blinked in surprise. What video? The man showed him the phone. There he was, paying for Lena's groceries, the little boy hugging the bag of food. Millions of views. Thousands of comments praising him. Ray didn't know what to say. Lena looked at him with wide eyes. Maybe this will change things. Ray wasn't sure. Life didn't usually hand out happy endings so easily. But deep inside, a small flame of hope began to burn. The calm before the big change. That night, Lena tucked Sam into bed with a full stomach and warm medicine. Ray walked home through the cold streets, jobless but strangely lighter inside. The world now knew what he had done. And sometimes, when the world sees kindness, things can happen that no one expects. But neither Ray nor Lena knew yet. This was only the beginning. Because tomorrow everything would change. The sun rose over the city like any other day. Cars honked, shops opened, people hurried to work. But for Ray, this day was different. He had no job to go to. He sat in his small apartment, drinking cold coffee because the gas bill hadn't been paid. His life had been simple before: work, eat, sleep, repeat. Now it was empty. But outside his tiny world, something big was happening. The video of him helping Lena and little Sam had exploded across the internet. Millions had seen it. News channels, bloggers, even celebrities were sharing it. Some called him the kind cashier. Others called him the man with a golden heart. But Ray didn't know. He didn't have a smartphone. He didn't follow trends. All he knew was he needed a new job, and Lena's son needed to stay healthy. The knock at the door. Late that morning, someone knocked on Ray's door. When he opened it, a young reporter stood there with a camera crew. "Are you Ray?" the reporter asked, smiling. Ray frowned. "Yes." "Why?" "We've been looking for you everywhere," she said. "The world wants to meet the man in the video." Ray blinked. "What video?" She showed him on her phone. The moment at the store. Lena's tired face. Sam holding the bag of food. Ray paying with his own card. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Faith in humanity restored. "Give this man a medal. Someone hire him already." Ray stared at the screen like it was someone else's life. Not his. The interview. The reporter set up the camera in his tiny apartment. "Why did you help her?" she asked. Ray looked at the floor for a long moment before answering. "When I was a kid," he said slowly, "someone helped my mother the same way. We had nothing. A stranger paid for our food. I never saw him again. But I never forgot him." The reporter's eyes softened. Ray continued, "So when I saw her and the boy, it felt like my turn." The interview was short. The reporter left smiling. Ray didn't think much about it. He didn't know the video of his interview would reach even more people before the day ended. Lena's guilt. Across the city, Lena watched the news on a neighbor's TV. They were talking about Ray, showing his face, calling him a hero. But Lena didn't feel happy. She felt guilty, because she knew he had lost his job because of her. She turned to her neighbor. Do you think someone will help him now?" The neighbor nodded. "People like him don't stay down for long. You'll see." Lena hoped that was true. The big surprise. By afternoon, offers started coming in. A bakery owner wanted to hire Ray as a manager. A charity group wanted him to speak at an event. Even a big supermarket chain offered him a job with better pay and hours. But Ray didn't accept any offer right away. He was quiet, unsure. He wasn't used to attention. All he had done was buy some food for a mother and child. To him, that wasn't hero work. That was just human. The community steps in. Meanwhile, donations started pouring in for Lena and Sam. People sent money for rent, groceries, and Sam's medical care. One local doctor even promised free checkups until Sam was fully healthy. Lena cried when she heard this. She had lived so long feeling invisible, like the world didn't care whether she or her son survived another day. Now strangers were proving her wrong. The store under fire. While Ray's life was slowly turning around, the small grocery store faced trouble. Customers boycotted it after hearing Ray was fired for kindness. Mr. Grant, the owner, was on the news trying to defend himself, but nobody cared. People wanted Ray back. They wanted the man with the kind heart, not the man with cold rules. But Ray didn't want to go back. Some doors, once closed, were better left shut. The ending of one chapter. That night, Ray stood outside Lena's apartment with a small bag of groceries. When she opened the door, he handed it to her. "You didn't have to," she began. "I know," he said softly. "But I wanted to." Inside, Sam smiled when he saw him. "Are you famous now?" the boy asked innocently. Ray chuckled. "I hope not, because fame wasn't what he wanted. He wanted quiet. He wanted the boy to stay healthy. He wanted the world to remember kindness wasn't news. It was something everyone could do. The hint of a new beginning. As Ray walked home that night, his phone, an old cracked thing, buzzed again. This time, it was from the supermarket chain offering him a job with double pay, health insurance, and weekends off. For the first time in days, Ray smiled. Maybe this was the beginning of something better. Maybe helping one family had changed his life too. Days passed after the video storm. What started as one small act in a corner store had now reached millions of people across the country. Everywhere, people were talking about Ray. the man who had paid for a struggling mother's groceries and changed her life. But for Ray, life had always been simple. He didn't care about cameras, interviews, or news reports. He didn't even own a good phone. All he wanted was to live quietly, help where he could, and move forward. Yet life had bigger plans for him. A new job, a new start. 1 week later, Ray started his new job at the supermarket chain that had offered him double pay, health insurance, and weekends off. When he walked into the big store for the first time, people recognized him. "That's him," someone whispered. "The kind cashier," another said. But Ray just smiled politely and got to work. He wasn't here to be a hero. He was here to earn an honest living. Still, something had changed inside him. He had spent years working quietly in the shadows, never noticed, never thanked. Now suddenly people looked at him with respect. But the truth was, he hadn't done it for respect. He had done it because he remembered the pain of going hungry as a child. Lena's new life. Meanwhile, Lena's life was changing too. Thanks to the donations from strangers, she managed to pay her rent, buy groceries, and keep Sam warm and healthy. The boy's cough disappeared. His cheeks grew rounder, his laughter louder. One afternoon, Lena stood at the small window of her apartment, watching her son draw pictures on scraps of paper. He was drawing Ray, tall, thin, carrying a bag of groceries like a superhero with no cape. Lena smiled through tears. Sometimes kindness didn't just feed stomachs. It healed hearts. The school event. A few days later, Sam's school held a small event. Parents were invited. Children had prepared songs, dances, and little speeches. Sam was nervous. He was a quiet boy, not used to standing in front of people. But that day, he held a small card in his hand and waited for his turn. When his name was called, he walked to the front slowly. "This," he said softly, holding up the card, "is for the man who helped my mom when nobody else did." The card had a simple drawing. Ray standing behind the store counter, Lena holding groceries, Sam smiling. At the bottom, in messy handwriting, were the words, "My hero." People clapped. Some wiped their eyes. Ray, sitting in the back row, looked down, embarrassed. He wasn't used to being called a hero. The TV interview. Soon after, a local TV channel invited Ray for a live interview. "We want to hear your story," the host said. Ray agreed reluctantly. He didn't like big crowds or bright lights. On live TV, they asked, "How does it feel to be famous for kindness?" Ray shook his head. "I'm not famous," he said simply. "I just did what anyone should do." The host smiled. "But you changed lives." Ray thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe, but if everyone helped one person even just once, the world wouldn't need videos or heroes. It would just be normal." The audience clapped. The offer that shocked him. After the interview, a representative from a large charity group approached him. "We help poor families across the country," she explained. "We want you to work with us. Your story inspires people. You could change many lives." Ray hesitated. He had never imagined doing anything beyond stocking shelves or running a cash register. But maybe this was his chance to do more. He told them he would think about it. Lena's words. That evening, Lena and Sam visited him at his new workplace. "You should do it," Lena said softly when he told her about the offer. Ray frowned. "Why me?" "Because," she said, smiling through tears, "the world needs people who don't walk away." Sam nodded eagerly. "You helped us. You can help more kids like me." Ray looked at the boy's hopeful eyes. Something in his heart shifted. The legend lives on. Weeks later, Ray accepted the offer. He began traveling with the charity group, helping families in need, speaking at schools, inspiring others to be kind. He never got used to cameras or interviews, but he got used to seeing smiles on faces that had forgotten how to smile. And everywhere he went, people told the story of the man who had once paid for a stranger's groceries and changed many lives without asking for anything in return. Ray never called himself a hero, but to Lena, to Sam, and to thousands of others, he always would be. Because kindness, once lit, spreads like fire. And his story, their story, would never be forgotten.